recent running of the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy saw a field of over 150 drivers head to the east part of Belgium. Located amidst the lush and beautiful Limburg countryside is the home of champions, Karting Genk. Established back by the Lemmens family in the 1980s, it now has evolved to the circuit you see here. Located around a 15 to 20 minute drive from the Dutch border, this circuit is part of a great cultural atmosphere here in this particular nation. The circuit itself, just off of the main Europalaan, runs clockwise, measures 1,360 metres, and over the three sectors that this circuit has, the drivers will have to negotiate a variety of 11 total different corners around every single lap. A total of 47 drivers would represent the junior road tax division from far and wide here for the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy at Karting Genk in Belgium. As with the senior road tax ranks, the same was for juniors in qualifying. Split into two groups, the 47 drivers would put their best foot forward, but Sam Pollitt Racing's Kean Bernard from the United Kingdom set the best overall lap in time qualifying. The first of three qualifying heats on Saturday would get underway, and more to the point, it would be the Triple 2 of Turkey's Eren Unlu from Dan Holland Racing that would be the first to storm his way to the race lead, with the likes of MLC Motorsports' Jensen Chalk and Strawberry Racing's Kai Clark very much in the thick of things, but an earlier incident took out two of the front-running competitors in the early part of the opening heat. The 225 of Germany's Julian Dummer for Kraft Motorsport was also very much in the thick of things, having moved up from Minimax after a successful campaign in 2025. He was simply there not just to make up the numbers. The battle between the trio would continue in earnest, swapping positions corner to corner, lap by lap, as the time would tick down. However, Eren Unlu would take the opening heat of the weekend by a comfortable margin of nearly 3 3/4 seconds. Heat 2 would get underway, and as the lights went out, multiple karts were involved in an early altercation on the approach into turn number 1. Several drivers were trying to make a run away for it, which included the likes of Lieke van Berkel from the Netherlands, pole-sitter Kean Bernard and Strawberry Racing's Kai Clark in the 276. Bernard would then retake the lead, with Van Berkel deciding to fire her SP Motorsport Kart Republic machine up the inside to then have her chance at the sharp end of the field. Meantime, the two Brits would go to wheel for the briefest of moments, being chased down by the young German, Julian Dummer. Van Berkel would have to go out of the frying pan and into the fire, but she would take the victory in qualifying heat number 2. Final qualifying heat on Saturday afternoon would get underway as the lights went out, as the field charged its way through into turn 1. Edin Unlordogan being forced a little bit wide on the early exchanges into turn 1 by MLC Motorsports' Jensen Chalk, who found Lionel Munguia from the Redeka Kart Racing team trying to get through on him and managed to do so at turn 2. But the youngster of the 264 was able to fire his way back past the young Dutch rival to get through back into second position and keep the pressure on Cian Bernard from Sam Pollitt Racing, before he would make it through on Bernard at turn 5 on the Europolan to take the race lead. As the race proceeded onwards, it also saw the likes of Luan Seidel, the young Swiss ace from KR Sport, get involved with his elbows clearly out on the KR Sport Cosmic chassis. Bernard once again would go for the race lead and overtake Chalk, slingshotting his way past into turn number 1. Another repeat of that wonderful overtake by the 282 from Sam Pollitt Racing, but he could not shake Jensen Chalk, who mounted an offensive going through into turn 10, and then it was all for themselves, including the likes of Finlay Lines, another one of the KR Sport massive, making his presence known in the final stages of the last qualifying heat of the weekend. Lines, along with Seidel and Denmark's Finn Albert Jorgensen, also making it 3 purple and white and silver karts, having a little bit of argy-bargy, closely followed by the 226 of Dan Holland Racing's Alex Goldschmidt. Things would come to a head as Finlay Lines stuck his nose in between, but when it was all said and done, Jensen Chalk would be declared the race winner for qualifying heat number 3. As Sunday morning and sunshine hit karting Genk, it was a free-for-all with definitely elbows out and knives sharpened, and no one wanting to give an inch, no one was given the opportunity to take a mile, as there were battle lines being drawn in the junior road tax division. Alex Goldschmidt in the 226 emerged as one of the main contenders to the 264 of MLC Motorsports' Jensen Chalk, with the pair playing musical chairs at the sharp end of the field, with multiple exchanges of the race lead shown with great racecraft. However, it wasn't that long before they saw one of the Sam Pollitt Racing drivers, in the form of pole sitter on Saturday, Cian Bernard in the 282, close ever nearer. And when the opportunity was given, Bernard slingshotted his way out of turn 2 into turn 3, and getting past Jensen Chalk for P2. Chalk would throw it high, wide and handsome to the outside, but Bernard was not going to give in. And into the mix came the likes of Lionel Munguia, Olivier Mazurkiewicz, Lieke van Berkel et al., as a freight train really started to showcase its prowess at the front of the field. A bit of a nudge from Lieke van Berkel sent Jensen Chalk deep into turn 5. Lionel Munguia was definitely not out of the woods quite yet, and then there was contact a little bit further down the field between the 235 and the 250, that being Alex Goldschmidt Pascu from Switzerland and Germany's Kimi Mai. Meantime, other drivers having to do their best, but Cian Bernard would end up being the race winner, despite having a 5-second penalty post-race. Alex Goldschmidt hit with a post-race 10-second time penalty for multiple incidents involved. Superheat B would also definitely showcase the rambunctious nature of junior road tax competition, as an early incident between Kai Clark, who broadsided the right side pod of Edin Unlordogan, managed to fire his way through into the race lead. The youngster from Denmark, Finn Albert Jorgensen, bringing a Viking-style attitude to his racing style, moving up from minis last year. Julian Dummer would also be involved, along with the likes of Riley Morrow, another one of the mini contingent that have moved up to juniors in 2026, and showing good pace from the onset. However, Kai Clark would win Superheat B. The final would get underway as the clouds came in to the home of champions, as Jensen Chalk would lead the field from pole position after the top 36 out of 47 were decided for the final. Who would be battling in the early stages? The Strawberry Racing's UK driver Kai Clark. Along with that, you had the likes of Kian Bernard. Riley Morrow was definitely showcasing that he was definitely one not to trifle with, as was the Netherlands' Lieke van Berkel in the 285 from SP Motorsport. Once again, the musical chairs game was being played out front and centre, as then Finlay Lines would find himself quickly falling behind Riley Morrow and Sam Pollitt Racing teammate Kian Bernard. But Riley Morrow, in his debut in Europe as a junior, would become the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy winner, leading home a Sam Pollitt Racing 1-2, with Jensen Chalk making it a complete lockout of the top three from the United Kingdom on the rostrum. And even with another snowy podium here at the home of champions, stay tuned, because coming up we've got our report for the Champions Winter Trophy 2026 for DD2 and DD2 Masters.